Hi, I'm Eric,
I'm Doug.
and we are Learning in Public. Welcome to the show, where we support each other as online creators, and hopefully, we're supporting you at the same time. The idea behind this is that we meet once a week to talk about our online creative businesses, and we share tips with each other and with you. Doug, I'm in the hot seat this week, so you want to give us a quick update on what went on with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be with you here for episode number two. Uh,
Woohoo!
Episode one was, a very informal figuring out what this show would be like. So, this is the one where we're trying to kind of follow a format from the beginning, and we'll kind of see how it all goes. But yeah, it's exciting to be here again. This past week for me has been a lot of YouTube work. I just started a new YouTube channel, like a second personal YouTube channel is one of the things that I just got started.
Cool.
I've had my verbal to visual YouTube channel going for a while now where I teach sketchnoting. But there's always been kind of like two types of videos that I've made there. Some have been kind of more sketchnoting tutorials, like how to take visual notes. Others have
Hmm.
been kind of sketch summaries of books or podcast episodes, or videos that I watch. And
Is that the Doug Neill channel you're talking about?
yeah, I played around with naming. So like the main YouTube channel was called Verbal to Visual. A handful of months ago, I changed the name to Doug Neill because I wanted flexibility. Just
Sure.
today, I switched the main channel name back to Verbal to Visual and started a new Doug Neal channel. It's too confusing. Like I hope it gets I'm trying to get to a place where it's stable and it all makes sense. But like now there's a Verbal to Visual channel, which is the one that I've been developing and where all of the work is outside of one new video on the new Doug Neal channel,
Okay.
where the purpose of that new one is to be where the only thing I do there is do these sketched summaries of interesting ideas from others. So that's where like the book summaries, the podcast highlights, the sharing of interesting ideas will go, and then verbal to visual is going to stay the place where I teach sketchnoting. Trying to kind of lean in. This gets to like audience, who you're making your work for. Trying to have a very
Right.
specific audience in mind for each channel, which I kind of didn't really have at the beginning. So that's kind of the big update for me. And then we've been working on our YouTube channel as well, which will be up by the time people are listening or watching this. Uh,
So
so
much YouTube.
so yeah, lots of lots of YouTube work for me this past week. That's yeah, kind of
I have a
exciting.
question for you
Yeah,
while we're talking about YouTube.
let's do it.
Um, I think when I went to your channel the first time, when I went to share it, I realized it didn't have a short name. Is that right? Did you not name your channel?
It probably didn't have a short name. I'm guessing, was it called Doug Neal when you found it?
It was called Doug Neal, but you know how like you can actually, once you get to a certain number of subscribers, they let you like do,
Yeah.
change all those letters and numbers to something that means something. I can't remember when they did it for me on my Listen to Sleep channel, but at some point I was able to change it to like youtube.com/c/listen to sleep. Um, did you do that for yours?
I did. I did that when it was called Verbal to Visual. So it did
Hmm.
have that short link for a while. But then when I changed the name of that channel to Doug Neal, um,
Uh,
I hadn't yet created the new short link, maybe because I knew that I was still kind of experimenting with like names of things and what lives where.
sure.
So I just re-updated verbal to visual, and now YouTube is kind of rolling out handles, kind of like how Twitter, you have a handle on Twitter, you have a handle on Instagram, and they're using
Right.
handles now for the short link. So I think now if you go to youtube.com/at verbal to visual, you
Right.
will get to the verbal to visual channel. I can't do that
Okay.
yet with
This is
Doug
what
Neal because it just started, but Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I was trying to do actually, was like I was doing like a at, like the way you do on all the other apps. At
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, this isn't working. And then I went to look and then I was like, okay, I'll just take this link and use it. Okay, cool. Great. Just
Yeah.
wanted to ask you that question about that because I'm kind of a newbie to YouTube. And okay, here I go. I'll hop in the hot seat, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Start sharing.
Um, this week was a little bit about learning some YouTube for me. Um, I'm in the same boat you were just talking about not wanting to get into. My Listen to Sleep YouTube channel has been a hodgepodge of all kind of things. I just kind of throw everything there. Sometimes it's a short that was a TikTok or a reel. Sometimes it's like what I've started doing now actually is taking and filming my reels and TikToks, which are the same thing for me. I just post them in both places. I'm filming them in portrait or no landscape, and then I'm cropping for the portrait so that I can put them in both places. But I'm still not sure that that's the best use of the YouTube channel. For a
Hmm.
while, I was posting podcast episodes there, which I think is probably the best use of the YouTube channel, or of me actually reading videos of me actually reading stories. Um, right now, it's kind of a mess, and I just live with it like that. It's like, yeah, it's my messiest social channel. Luckily, it's not really a social channel. It's a place to store stuff that gets searched for in the world's second biggest search engine. Did you know
Mm-hmm.
that?
I did.
That
Yeah.
YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world?
Yep.
Crazy.
Right behind Google,
Um,
which is it's funny
so
because how they own both of them. But yeah.
yeah, smart. Um, so this week, you remember last week was the very first episode started with me like ending. We hit record just as I was kind of like ending my meltdown of having a very rough week as an online creator. Uh, Part of the benefit of doing this at this point in my life has been that I don't melt nearly as hot and fast as I used to.
Mm.
So I'm grateful for that. And I think that that's probably one of the first things that I learned as an online creator or just as a, solo business person is that there is nothing to keep you from going down as fast and as far as you want to. So you do need to be your own advocate and have a support network of people who will help you when things start to fall apart. I'm super grateful to have you. I also have other creators that are in the same space as me that I can touch base with, which is a fantastic feeling. I met with a creator who has a big sleep podcast this week. And we're just kind of fans of each other's work, and she's really wonderful. And we chatted for half an hour about some ideas I had for the podcast and just life in general. And to be able to actually talk to someone who gets the same emails you get, is up against the same challenges you're up against, or in her case, she's kind of surmounted some of them already and she's a few steps in front of me. It's incredibly valuable. And I'm not joking when I say on that call, I laughed, I cried, and I had a complete epiphany about where my podcast is going next, the Listen to
Mm.
Sleep podcast. Um, all in 30 minutes on a regular, good old phone call. Uh, it was just great. So, kind
Just
of as
chatting, not not
low,
even not even like a FaceTime or a video chat. Just good old hearing each
just,
other's voices.
yep, speakerphone. Good old speakerphone. Um, and it was great. And, that's how I talk to, some of my best friends still. I still have like a couple of friends that I can just call.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if that's even a thing anymore for people who aren't my age.
Yeah,
But like,
it's not so much
I
for
just,
me.
yeah, I pick up the phone and like, my one of my best friends, I just pick up the phone and call him. And if he can't answer the phone, he texts me back real quick, says I'll call you right back or I'll call you later, or I leave him a voicemail, like just like the old days. But this is also the same friend that back in the 90s in San Francisco, when we first became friends, we both lived in the Castro, like 2 blocks from each other, and he had just finished film school and I was a bartender, so we had our days free, and he used to just come knock on the door, and
Hmm.
we'd be like, what are you doing? Be like, oh, nothing, let's hang out. Okay, cool, let's go get a cup of coffee or da, da, da. um, and I think that is something that could easily come back and make the world a much better place. Like just picking up the phone and calling, just stopping by your best friend's house. I think if everyone had one friend like that, it could change the world in like some good ways. Um, yeah,
I agree.
I wonder how we make that a thing again, or if
Hmm.
we even can. Maybe it's like the passenger pigeon; it's just gone forever.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean,
But,
I see it as a um, thing that I think folks are recommending. Like I hear that. I think last, can't remember if it was in our chat for this show or our kind of first chat on the. Now, is it? How do you distinguish between listen to sleep and awaken your myth? If there is a
oh my,
distinguish in those, like,
I don't
can you?
really know what's happening with Awaken Your Myth, to tell you the truth. But after you say what you're going to say, I'll explain that
Yeah.
next.
So during our first chat, I think the work of Cal Newport came up,
Right.
and some
Deep
things
work.
around deep work, digital minimalism,
Mhm.
and probably within digital minimalism, there was some advice here around. Um, I think it had to do with texting, uh, not the encouragement to not use texting as a place to have conversations, but as a place to, as a way to set up a phone call or a video chat or meeting up at a
So,
coffee shop. Like use it to schedule and initiate like a real conversation where you're chatting with someone. Ideally, you can see their face and you have this kind of emotional connection. Um, so I think I see that type of advice coming up more as a response to the over digitalization, over social media ness
right.
of our kind of current default experience.
Yeah. Which is probably like the modern equivalent of what I'm talking about like the old fashioned actually calling on the phone.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that call really reminded me of two things. One, when I'm down, when business kicks me in the butt and, you know, things go bad. Like last week, it was technical problems, marketing problems, just the kind of thing that was like that could have really made me go, oh my God, I need to get a job. Um, I found that like my mindfulness practice and just taking a breath and going, okay, this seems bad, but it isn't as bad as it seems, and waiting for what was going to come from it
Mm,
that wasn't bad, that wasn't like a smackdown, but a lift up. Because nothing ever smacks down forever. It eventually comes, something pops up. And I realized after spending a morning beating myself up that I needed to stop doing that to make the space for the thing that would come. And within 24 hours of making that space, I was contacted just out of the blue by 2 people who are mentors of mine who were offering help. We're just
mm.
like, hey, I was just thinking about you. And I'm like, thank you. I need your thoughts. And actually, I'd love to connect and run some stuff by you. and they know more about the business challenges I was facing, and they just showed up
Mm.
because I made that space. Um, and that's the kind of thing that is a self fulfilling prophecy, right? Like it makes room for the next time when I'm down to come back a little quicker
Mm.
or a little, to go a little less deep. Um, so that was great. I was very excited about that.
Mm.
I guess maybe I should get into some of the specifics because this is all very vague. Um, the specifics of what really got my first meltdown going was has to do with awaken your myth, which you just asked about. Awaken your myth is a method that I've used my whole life to. Um, I used to call it, and my friends still do, reinventing myself. It basically involves setting out on a new journey. And it's a way of looking at life like a hero's journey. So it's meant to be a book, but I have not really felt like a writer until just this year. And writing this long book um, has been challenging for me, although it's getting there super slowly. Um, so, Awaken Your Myth is this method of how to live life as a hero's journey. And I guess I'll just tell you what it is. The It centers around five pillars, which are myths, basically, the word myths. The first one is mindfulness. It's the basis of like having the presence of mind to be able to make decisions based on the present moment, on what's actually happening, rather than constantly trying to push or pull my way through life. That's never worked for me. And I just failed so many times trying to push that I just, a lot of times the change would come when I was exhausted by pushing. And I'd failed so badly. Like in my 20s, I lost $50,000. I like had this horrible business I hated that nearly killed me, but it led to something good after that. Now I find I don't have to get pushed so low because I don't push so hard. Anyway, mindfulness. Then the second one is yielding,
Mm.
that the willingness to yield to my inner wisdom instead of my doubts and knowing the difference has been a lifelong uh, learning experience for me. So yielding to your that quiet voice inside instead of that loud voice in your head makes all the difference in the world. Then it's transformation, not being afraid to change, letting life change you, but not in the way of like wearing you down and making you bitter and going, yeah, everything sucks and I know why. And so I'm just going to hide in my hole and wait for it all to be over, which, trust me, I've had times in my life where that was like that. I mean, when I was in college, my motto was most people are dicks. I was bitter, had a, but that was also because I had not come out of the closet then. And I hated the world and the world hated me back. Um, so I've realized that I need to allow myself to change, that change is not a bad thing. Change is natural and it's not normally comfortable, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Then the next one is healing. There needs to be time in life to do nothing. Like one of my friends, this summer, he came up to visit for a week. He is a writer and movie writer and director. Um, Very successful, super nice guy. Um, and he was just saying how nice it was to have unstructured time.
Mm.
We spent 2 solid days just going down to the creek and hanging out and having a long lunch and a nap in the afternoon, reading a book. Um, and he was like, I can't remember the last time I did this. I try to do that at least once a week. I try to have a, at least an afternoon that's unstructured. And it's normally even more than that because it's been a goal of mine for my whole life
Mm.
to have this time. Um, and then let's see, where are we? The S, storytelling. That as we go through this process, we need to check in with where we started, where we are, and where we hope to go. And this is the part where we not only inspire ourselves, we inspire others. We take what we've learned, kind of like what we're doing in this podcast. We take what we've learned and we bring it to other people in the form of our story. Um, and so to me, this method is it's a circle. It's like the hero's journey isn't just something you do once. It's not a one journey over a lifetime. It's like a wheel. You're just going you're going up and then oh, we're into a new journey and oh, we're off into the darkness here. Oh shit, there's a dragon. Oh, here's some light. We're coming out of the cave. Oh, look what we got. Amazing. Let's bring it back and tell everybody about it. Oh, here we go again. Um, and that's life, right? Until it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, these five things have been the foundation of being able to not only live the life that I've dreamed about and do things like move to a mountain in the middle of nowhere and, live like an old wizard, but to be able to share it with people in a way that's meaningful to me and that isn't just about me and my life. Because trust me, I tried. I was as hedonistic, pleasure seeking, self centered as any of us at different points in my life, thinking, you know what? I'm in this for me. This is about me now. That never worked for me.
Mm.
That always led to pain and suffering and that kind of contracting and shutting down. It feels like the right thing to do at the time when you're hurt and you're angry and you're just, or somebody hurt you, screw them. Never is the answer. So that's Awaken Your Myth. The book is not written yet. The idea was to start a community and do a course first. So that was the whole thing that led me to Mighty Networks because I was
Mm.
going to start an Awaken Your Myth community, which is the whole thing that led me to you. Uh, but now I'm putting all that on hold, and I think I will still do the course. But I don't think I'm going to do the community. What I'm thinking now I'm going to do is do a listen to sleep community. And I'm
Mm.
doubling down on the podcast because after everything that happened last week, part of which was launching my first mindfulness class to a less than stellar opening week, but not a complete failure like I felt it was after the first 2 days. Um, I've had some conversations with people and realized that to carve out a whole new niche in the mindfulness space is going to be a uphill slog right now.
Mm.
When I have something that I could just as easily devote probably less time to for more gain and more satisfaction now. Originally, the idea of starting the Awaken Your Myth thing is I was a little not bored, but just the podcast felt like a rut. It had been the
Mm.
same thing every week for 3 years, and I thought I want to mix it up. I do get like this, like I want to try new things. Even still in my mid 50s, I'm like, why am I not slowing down? I don't know. But anyway, um, I want to try new things. So I was going to do this, but then I realized I could try new things with the podcast. And the podcast is already successful. It's in the top 1% of podcasts in the whole world. It's like the top 10
Hmm.
sleep podcasts. I have listeners in 70 countries. You know,
Amazing.
I I don't need to pull back from that. I need to lean into it
Hmm.
because those people rely on me, and I've committed to them, in more ways than one. I mean, I have Patreon subscribers who've signed up for a year. Like, I need to give them something for a solid year, at the very least. And so, what I decided to do is I'm going to change the format of the podcast a little. Um, and I'm not going to say what that is here
Ooh.
because it's going to be a
Teaser.
surprise. I will tell you after. Um, but I started working on it this morning, and I almost like just like synchronicity. I was done doing what I was working on 10 minutes before our call. I looked up and I was like, "Oh crap! I gotta get the mic. I gotta brush my hair. Like we gotta get going here." And I was like floating on air by the
Hmm.
time I was done with this first creative project for the new podcast. I'm super excited about it. I think it's gonna take the podcast to new places. I think it's gonna take me to new places, um, and it all came about through, like I invested 9 months of my time in building Awaken Your Myth, thinking it was going to be one thing, a book, then thinking it was going to be another, a community, then realizing no, it's not going to be anything right now. It just led me to this.
Hmm.
So I had to give up, to give that up for now. But it felt like surrender, like like yielding to what was right instead of yielding to whereas last week I'd started by yielding to my doubts. Like, oh, I can't
Hmm.
make this work. I can't make this mindfulness thing work. Um, Same situation, but I just saw it from the other side. And looking at it from that other side made all the
Hmm.
difference because the doubts in my mind weren't in control. I had let go of control and just yielded to what was there. So I think that is my hot seat for the week. I probably went on too long.
No, I think that's great. There's a lot that I like about that. The thing that I was adding just now is how, you mentioned coming back to this place where uh, kind of trying to remind yourself of the most helpful thing to do when you're down. I feel like the hardest thing about when you're in any sort of a dip is you forget that you've been in a dip before and that you got out of it. And there was probably something that you did to help you get out of it.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned earlier, just kind of recognizing or this experience reinforcing the fact that kind of turning to mindfulness, returning to your breath, and returning just to waiting and making space, how that is such a helpful first step. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of something my wife says a lot, who works as a school social worker in an elementary school, so with kind of younger kids,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
how oftentimes, and as parents too, how easy it is to be reactive. And the common phrase of like, don't just sit there, do something, flipping that on its head and saying, don't just do something, sit there. Like, just give it some breathing room, right? You don't have to immediately react and take action. So I feel like that was such a helpful thing for you that led to um, conversations and this epiphany related to both kind of um, how awaken your myth and listen to sleep maybe fit together, or one might be paused and kind of focusing on listen to sleep because of like, it is kind of crazy how strong of a foundation you have there and what has resulted from the work that you've done over these past 3 years, and how common I think it is to feel some sort of, I don't know, complacency, or some of it was probably just boredom of like, you've been doing the same thing for so long that
Totally.
even when others find value in that, you as the creator, you can get bored with it. And that makes it harder to do the same thing. It's funny how it like, as a creator, it can take you more energy to do what you've been doing if you're bored with that and you want to try something new, or you, so like I feel like that's what you experienced. And now you're like, okay, I want to double down on this, but we need to shift it. We need to bring some new energy into it. So it's like exciting to hear kind of how quickly that, once that realization came, uh, that in and of itself was creating space for you to try something new with whatever this new format is. Um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Well,
so
and that's
that's
the
all
thing.
exciting.
It doesn't have to take time. This is what I'm. One of my one of my teachers talks a lot about the difference between reacting and responding. And reacting happens in our mental, emotional body.
Mhm.
We get a feeling, and that feeling is ew. And then we get a thought, and then we take a snapshot, and we go, okay, this thought, this angry thought, and this ew feeling have got to have, something needs to be done. And we are like all our little monkey mind trying to control. What am I going to do about this? Um, and that kind of thinking never leads to anything creative. It just leads to either destructive or spinning. Conversely, when we respond, we take a moment and we check in past the thought, past the feeling, and just allowing a moment of quiet. And this is where the real value of mindfulness comes in, because when you have a mindfulness practice, when since I've had a mindfulness practice, I can get to that quiet place. It didn't used to be accessible to me. And so I had to go through a lot of reacting and getting smacked down enough to be like, oh, I need to shut up. Like this really hurts now. I can do no more of this. Um, Now I don't have to get so smacked down to get quiet. And then the answers just come. They're
Mm,
just right there. It's natural. It's like it's when people say the answer is within, that's where it is. Like
mm,
it comes, like it feels like, somebody getting in touch with you out of the blue. Something happens, and then something happens, then all of a sudden, boom, everything's different. And you didn't do anything. So um yeah,
mm,
that's I think that's so important. And I'm finding that the more I let go like that, the better the outcomes, the better life is. Um, even the rough spots, just it's like, okay, that's just where we are today. It's not going to last forever.
yeah, I love that. Um, yeah, this is such a helpful framework for life in general, like let alone applying it to, building some creative thing. Just how frequently the opportunity to either react or to respond comes up. And it kind of seems like, even the way you were describing it, it kind of feels like a muscle that you can build,
It
so
is.
that you get to the
It is.
place where responding is your kind of natural way to, confront a particular situation, as opposed to that
I
reacting
will
mode.
love
And
that when that happens.
yeah.
Certainly not there yet. You know,
Yeah.
I am to the point though where I notice my reaction most of the time.
Yeah.
My reaction definitely comes first still.
Yeah. It can,
Uh,
so yeah, it's less about it like only being responding. It's more about,
right.
which, once you do respond, do you take like the default path A, or do you remember that like there's another path that you could take?
Yeah, right, right.
Hmm. Well, I love that sigh of that felt like a very satisfying sigh that you just made right now. I don't know if that's true, but like it feels like
Totally.
compared
So
to like our
satisfying.
conversation last week, it feels like you're at a place of kind of much more clarity and at ease with where you are and clarity about where you want to go next.
Completely, completely.
Do you feel
Feels so
like, I think some thinking about what these conversations between you and I will be like, sometimes um, I feel like in this case, it was kind of a general update, sharing where you've been, like where you were and kind of where things are now. Uh, and sometimes it can be like a question that you want to bring to this space. I feel like
sure.
your question came in the quiet space in the conversations that you had, and you were able to work through them already. It sounds like, but I did want to open it up. Like, is there still an open question around this kind of next stage of work that you're entering into that you want to pose here?
So you mean like around what I'm going to be doing with Listen to Sleep?
Yeah. Like, do you
Uh,
feel like you need feedback on something, or do you feel like you're just in a good place where you're ready to just keep going?
I feel like actually like this week I don't have questions. Probably mostly because I'm literally still on that high I got of
Oh
right
yeah.
before our call. What I was working on for the new version of the podcast. I'm like I feel so connected to it and so
Mm.
like that this is the point where I know that I'm going to do it no matter what. So this will be another thing that will have to fail to get me to stop doing it. Um, which is okay. I've just always done it like this, and I have to follow that heart because
Oh yeah.
sometimes your heart will not lead you where you think you want to go. Your
True.
head will be like, "We're going here," and your heart is like, "Wee," but it is not driving where your head thinks it's going.
Hmm.
So right now, I'm heart powered,
Hmm.
head hopeful, and this week I don't have a question. How about you?
I
Do
love
you have
that.
a question?
Well, first of all, I just got to capture like, um, yeah. Had you used that phrase before? Heart powered, head
Mm,
hopeful.
no, I just made that up.
You made that heart powered, head hopeful. Um,
Make a good T-shirt, wouldn't it?
it would,
Maybe we could
because
have
I think that
merch.
like eventually, I think we could definitely have merch, uh, if we want. If we decided that would be a useful and valuable thing to put out. Um, but I feel like this gets at most decisions that we make as entrepreneurs. Like a lot of it
Right.
comes from a feeling, almost more than a thought. It's a feeling about what you're maybe excited about, what you want to try next. And, you know, it can be easy to convince yourself in your head that that feeling is going to work. Like you can come to this like 100% certainty that like, oh yeah, this is definitely going to work. Like how can it not?
Totally.
um, and I think it's worth it to follow, to explore what your heart is excited about, but keep in mind that like it might take some feedback loops. Like once you put it out there and like it feels different once it's out there compared to when
Mhm.
it's in here. It feels
Right.
different just for you, even outside of how other people interact with it. It's going to feel different once you put it out there, and you're going to
Right.
need to see how other people interact with it. um, that's what I like about head hopeful. It's like you're not placing any certainty or necessarily any expectations on it. You can be hopeful about it, but that leaves open a question mark for okay, there might still be wiggle room around the specifics of what this thing looks like or like the role that it might play. Um,
Sure. Or like the difference between, like I've had expectations get so horribly dashed. I mean, we all have, right? And I've also tried the whole like, um, working so hard to make something happen. That whole like, you know, Gary V
Mm-hmm.
school of success. That I, I mean, I would imagine that the people who are here are probably, and honestly, this is the people who I want to be there for. The people who are entrepreneurs who are not going to go to a Tony Robbins seminar. They're not going to listen to Gary Vee talk about how hard they have to work and how just this endless list of things to do. But they're going to like go, I want to relax into what is me and find a way to turn that into something that supports me. I don't need to make a quadrillion dollars. I don't need to be a baller. I just need to be able to feel satisfied with my work and have time to relax with the people I love.
So well said.
So
I feel like you're
that's
nailing it.
me.
You're nailing it with the phrases today, because even that, like, relax into what is me. Um, Both like the relaxing into experiences as opposed to tensing up in response to them. Super powerful. But then, as people who are like approaching being an online creator, starting a business, like you mentioned, I feel like the people listening to this, aren't the people that are doing like the traditional venture capital backed startup that they want to work really hard to build over 2 years and then sell. Like, it's much more about the creative expression first and finding a way, trying to find a way to support yourself through that work, support others with your work.
Yeah.
And I feel like with that approach to business, that the kind of relaxing into what is you, and then finding the intersection there of like relaxing into what is you and what you find other people respond to about
Mm-hmm.
you. um
Yeah.
I think those are some like core pieces to what we're both doing. And I don't think I have a particular question, because I love everything that you shared. And um I think a lot of what you shared here resonated with even like the little update that I shared at the beginning about like, okay, I've decided to, I kind of, how I'm splitting my YouTube creation into kind of two different buckets, three with this channel. But like, part of that is trying to do this piece of relaxing into what feels most natural to me. And because there were like, in my case, by trying to serve kind of what I imagine as two different audiences on one channel, there was tension
Mm-hmm.
and conflict. But now having
Sure.
these two different spaces that kind of have just more defined roles, I feel like that's allowing me to relax into each of those roles and relax into two different types of creating that both kind of resonate with me. Um, so
Awesome.
yeah, that's
Awesome.
that's a
Yeah.
lot of resonance here.
I feel the same way, like it's really about that. Like, how do I make, like make adjustments to what is happening in a way
Mm,
that is going to help the what's happening to be more successful, and me to be in that space I want to be in, where I can relax into it and have it first and foremost be something creative,
mm.
and secondly be something that supports me.
Yeah,
So
so much
I
of
mean,
what.
it's like it's the absolute ass backwards way that most people try to look at it, but I found that it just works better that way for me,
Oh yeah.
and I also, I remember in the first .com thing, when I got my first like job as a web designer and was working in startups back when startups were still brand new, in like 1999, 2000. There was all this talk of, like the power of the internet and what we're all going to do. And it was like this it was so much creative, 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 but it was really underneath it. It was money, 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 money. And
Mm.
I got burned so many times. And I realized that, that doing it that way has never worked for me. It does. I don't even want to be in the companies that are doing it that way. I gotta try it my way.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And it was a, it was a hard slog. I'm not going to lie. The first half a dozen things I tried didn't work, didn't make money, but I kept going, you know. So I'm sure it was
And
probably the
look
same for
where it
you,
got you.
right? First half a dozen things you tried didn't. They weren't the one.
Absolutely. My
Yeah.
first entrepreneurial pursuit at all came out of has nothing to do with what I'm doing right now. It came during grad school. Maybe I'll share this story and then we can probably start to wrap it up for this show. Um,
Sure.
I went to the first path I followed after undergraduate, my undergraduate experience, where I did like a double major in physics and Spanish. I followed the
Hmm.
physics route, moved to Boston for a PhD program. Um, Within the first year of that, realized that was not a good fit for me. But the one thing, speaking of like, ooh, what gets your heart excited and your head hopeful, like I got into computer programming a little bit and like got my first iPhone or iPod Touch, like one of the first devices where you could touch and interact with a screen. And I was like, that's so
Sure.
cool. Like you can touch and move things around. So I got into that world and made like a handful of apps, little like kind of nerdy
Yeah.
math games. Um, Set up, the whole app store thing, sold them for 99 cents each, made like a total of $50, I feel like, and then kind of got burnt out on the coding life, very limited experience that I had of it. And that's kind of when I went toward teaching. But like, yeah, I think everyone it kind of starts with some initial pull
Hmm.
toward a more maybe more creative, more independent um, life, but it's gonna take iteration. Sometimes iterating within the first thing you try, sometimes like trying something completely new. So I just think that's the reality of pursuing this type of work and life.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, I just want to make one note for you to remind me of, or to remind myself for next week,
Mm-hmm.
to unplug the fridge before we do
Unplug the
breakfast.
fridge. Is that what kicked on a little
Unplug the
bit
fridge.
in the background?
Yeah, you might have to drop some noise reduction on
We'll do a
my
little bit of
channel.
that. Yeah, yeah, I'll try that. One thing I want to mention too. Hopefully, I think we will have mentioned this elsewhere too, but we have kind of imagined a third segment to this show. There's like the brief updates in the beginning. There's a deep dive where one of us will share what's been going on lately, maybe ask questions, maybe get feedback. And then we want to bring in some listener and viewer questions as well. So for folks that are tuning in here, if you have a question, maybe about something that Erik shared today, or just something that's going on in your creative work right now that you would like to hear our feedback on, drop that in a comment on YouTube. And we want to start bringing in one of those each episode to hear what you're working on, what you're thinking about. Because feel like that'll be a way to bring more community into this conversation. That like Erik and I are doing this because we resonate with each other and we want to support each other on each of our paths. We also want to support you listening to and watching this. So I think that'll be a fun way to bring in what you're thinking about. So if you've got a
We should
question,
mention too that if you are listening, and you just found the podcast audio, that on Spotify and YouTube, you can see the video. And it's really, with most podcasts, you're just going to watch two guys laughing at each other, or, it's just, it doesn't matter if you see it or not, but you've got to see what Doug is doing in the video of this podcast, because everything gets sketch noted out, and it really, like, helps to drive the conversation and makes it a lot clearer to both of us kind of what we're talking about and where we're going. Also to you, probably.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is fun. I like having this opportunity to, um, practice my sketchnoting skills and do it in this live setting. It's fun. I find it to be useful. And
Are these sketch notes gonna like be like a PDF people can download?
yeah, we should definitely do that. I'll do some combination of, I kind of grouped this into different sections here, kind of the three main
Sure.
parts of our
Yeah.
chat, maybe. So it could be, might make them each individual images, but try to make one, could do one big sheet as well.
Perfect.
And I can do a quick little kind of show notes page. I could do that through the verbal to visual site, um, because I have that's kind of already what the Learn in Public URL
Yeah.
directs to. So I was thinking of adding
Perfect.
like a little kind of Doug and Eric section, connecting that to Learn in Public and having a place where we can share these sketches for each episode, have a little bit of a home
Oh,
for it.
that sounds
So
great.
I'll
That
do
sounds
that.
great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Super. Well, look,
Well,
we got a show
we got a
with two
show. We
episodes.
got 2 episodes now.
Woohoo.
You want to tell people this exciting thing coming for you in next week's episode about
It
your?
might be next. It probably is going to be my next hot seat. It'll probably be 2 weeks
Okay.
because I've got some stuff I gotta sort out.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I will make a tentative commitment to reveal the new Listen to Sleep format
Oh yeah.
in 2 weeks. I feel like I should check in probably with some listeners. Um, I'm pretty sure they're gonna like it, and they're gonna like it. I don't need to. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Well, you
So,
got that update. It sounds like something that I feel like, based on how you've talked about it, that's something you need to try and you need to taste it. Like that's how I think of it
yeah,
sometimes. Like
yeah,
sometimes you just got to taste the new thing and see how it feels.
yeah.
I was referring to a green screen. Like you've got
Oh,
that
oh, oh,
coming.
oh, oh.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Next week, actually, this is going to be the first week where hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed, I'm not like I don't know exactly how this is going to work, but I think you're going to be able to make it happen. I am going to have a green screen behind me. It's going to be me and Doug, and it's like Monday Night Football, but without the football. It's going to be so good.
yeah, I think that'll be fun. We've been talking
Yeah.
about how like, you know, the I mean the first episode that we put out is an example of this, like showing part of the whole concept behind learning in public is not waiting until your setup is perfect, where you have all the tech, like getting the thing going, and then just showing the slight progression from episode to episode, um, as it relates to quality of the show, the tech things. So like, that's another
And next
example
week,
of it.
no
We're trying to
fridge.
figure out. Uh, no fridge though. Hopefully, yeah. Our hour-long conversations hopefully don't do any damage to the fridge or the freezer. Should be good.
It'd be
But
totally
then
fine.
video quality with some green screening and yeah, I'm hoping folks find the sketches to be valuable and interesting. I'm always open for feedback on like what people would feel like would be more useful as far as how I'm sketching things out, and just hopefully providing a little bit of a reference and common a common reference for the things that we talk about each week. Um,
Mhm.
so with that, should we wrap it up, Eric?
Yes. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up with some plugs.
Oh yeah, you go first. What would you like to
Uh,
plug this
you
week?
guys, I want to plug you.
Oh hey, there you go.
Um, you guys need to go check out Doug's Verbal to Visual community. This is how I found Doug, and it is so valuable and such a good example of online community. Plus, that's where all of his courses are. It's one price. You could literally just join for a month if you wanted to and take all of his courses, and they're so worth it. And he's got a 7-day free trial. So definitely go to Verbal to Visual, check it out. It's literally how I found Doug and why we're sitting here. So There we go.
Thank you for that plug. I've
There we
got to shout out Erik's podcast, which I need to go listen to it. I've listened to a couple of episodes, but man, even my sleep is hit or miss depending on what's going on with the
You got
kiddos here in the
babies.
house, and how I'm feeling about my business. Um, but yeah, if you haven't yet checked out the Listen to Sleep podcast, go have a listen and be on the lookout for the new things they're coming in that space. Um, am I right in that is it listentosleep.com? That's what you got, right?
It's listentosleep.com.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yep. And will be still with the new one. The name's going to change a little bit, but the URL is going to be the same.
Ooh. This is exciting. I can't wait to hear. I like not knowing too. Like I like being in the listeners same same space of being excited to hear what's coming.
But if you want, we can turn off the recording and I'll tell you, or you can just wait till next week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's wait. Keep me in the same space as the
Actually,
listeners.
no,
Next.
no, no. Now I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of want to tell you and get your feedback on it.
Okay,
Because
let's do
because
that.
now I'm in the collecting feedback from mentors and friends stage. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
if you don't mind, I will do that. Okay, so let's end the show. Bye, everybody.